That one text message killed my whole family. Hello, everyone. My name is Donavin. I'm writing this story here today because I know I'm being hunted. I know that someone is after me, and I know that soon I'll be dead. Therefore, I desperately need to get this information out before they close in. This all started a few weeks ago. I was sitting alone at home playing some Call of Duty on FaceTime with my girlfriend when I noticed a notification drop down on the screen above my girlfriend's face. One new message, it read. Pausing the FaceTime video and clicking on the notification, I was greeted with a single text message. Hello, confused. I exited out of the message, not wanting to interfere with the time I was having with my lover. Everything went on as usual for the rest of the evening, and eventually she and I decided that it was time for bed. Hanging up the call and plugging my phone in on my nightstand, I crawled into bed, where I soon drifted off to sleep. When I awoke the next morning, I was perplexed to find 96 new messages from the unknown number. The person had spammed hello nearly 100 times, and new messages continued rolling in even as I read. I didn't even dignify them with a response. I blocked the number and went on about my day. I had an 8-hour shift, and the company I worked for required me to leave my phone in my locker, so all day I was without it. Retrieving it at the end of my shift, I felt my heart drop as I saw the one new message notification written across my display screen. Hello was written yet again like a lingering pest that refused to leave. I blocked the number again and called my girlfriend. We chatted on the phone about the whole ordeal while I drove home from work. I explained to her how I'd already blocked the number twice, and that if it came up again, I didn't know what I'd do. She told me how it could be an old friend messing with me, just looking for a reaction. I agreed with her, and I was determined not to give them one. When I got home, I tossed my phone on the bed and hopped in the shower. When I got out, would you believe it, one new message on my display screen again, like déjà vu. This message was different, though. It wasn't the childish hello that I was expecting, no. This message read, enjoy the shower. What? The fuck? I immediately called my girlfriend. Miranda, are you fucking with me? I shouted into the receiver. What? What are you talking about, fucking with you? How? She replied aggressively. The texts I keep getting, one just asked me if I enjoyed my shower, and you're the only one I told I was taking a shower. Please, Miranda, please, just tell me if it's you or not. No, you silly butt. What about your family? They can hear you in the shower, can't they? I stood there embarrassed. She was right. You may be right. I know I am, she said playfully, before ending our call. Walking around the house to look for my older brother, who I was sure was the culprit, I found the home empty. I called out for my brother, no response. Called out for my mom, no response. As I searched, my phone buzzed in my hand. One new message. Feeling fear creep up my spine, I opened the message to find an image of my brother tied to a chair and gagged, beaten, bloody. Hello. Read the message right below it. I was completely mortified. I tried calling the number, and the phone went straight to making dial tone noises. New images came flooding in, and in each one, a new limb was severed from his body. The life drained from his eyes, photo by photo, until he was no more than a torso, ropes wrapping around him, soaked in blood. Does this have your attention? A new message read. I was frozen. I didn't know what to do. I felt my stomach churn as I ran to the bathroom, bile rising into my throat. Once I finished losing my lunch, I looked at my phone again to find that the number had been completely removed from my messages. All the images, all the messages, completely gone. I called the police and explained to them what had happened, and they took the phone in for evidence. My mum was devastated, and her wails could be heard continuously from the very moment I told her the contents of the messages I received. 2 months passed, and without a body or any of the photographic evidence from the phone, my brother was legally declared missing. The fact that no evidence could be pulled from the phone baffled me. All the technology the police force has at their fingertips, and yet nothing. I eventually mustered up the courage to buy a new phone, and everything went smoothly. That is, until 2 weeks ago. Bedridden and still utterly devastated over the loss of my brother, I lie there scrolling through Instagram Reels. I was just about to go to sleep for the fourth time that day when my phone buzzed in my hand. One new message. My eyes welled up with tears, and my heart began to race as the memory of my brother's limbless torso came rushing back to my mind. Staring at the notification for what seemed like hours, I gathered my courage and opened it, ripping the band-aid off. What I saw was an obscure image of the sidewalk, illuminated by street lamps. More and more images came rolling in, leading up the steps of what I then realized was my girlfriend's apartment complex. I exited out of the messages immediately and called Miranda as fast as I could, feeling the phone buzz the entire time. My heart raced faster and faster as her phone went to voicemail each time. In my car, I sped furiously down the road, calling Miranda back to back and feeling my heart break more and more as more messages came in and her phone continued to go to voicemail. Instant relief washed over me when I saw her pretty face light up my display screen and my phone vibrated as her call came through. I answered immediately with an exasperated, "Miranda? Are you okay? I've been getting messages that look like I was cut off with the sound of breathing." Long, laboring breaths that I could feel against my face through the phone before a voice came in. "Hello," was all I heard from the other end. In a deep, psychotic-sounding voice. It was as though it were the voice of a man with the inflection of a child, and tears began to streak my face as the sound of snarking giggles was heard over my girlfriend's muffled cries. The line went dead, and I opened the messages. A complete slideshow of pictures showing the man's point of view walking to my girlfriend's front door. It then showed the door kicked open, revealing my horrified Miranda cowering on her couch. The images didn't stop there, though. I received a full collage revealing her being knocked unconscious and then dragged to the trunk of the stranger's car, where he placed her, curled into the fetal position with her knees touching her eye sockets. That's the last message I received, before the contact was erased again. I was completely devastated. I knew the police wouldn't be able to find any proof of those messages, and I was convinced that this was just the beginning of it. Returning home to think on what to do, I found myself completely in a daze. Lost in thought, completely ripped apart by the last few months' series of events. A few days went by, and I saw reports of my girlfriend's disappearance all over the news. A mother's desperate pleas shot through my heart and ate me alive. I thought about calling her, explaining what had been sent to me, but chose to wait in hopes that new images would come through. I waited and waited for days with no new messages. I had nearly grown hopeless when finally, a new message came. I clicked it right away and almost puked at what I saw. The first video sent, and it was of my brother, stitched together and rotting. My terrified girlfriend made to sit on his lap and sway provocatively. I heard her desperate cries and choked sobs while the man barked orders at her, forcing her to kiss my brother's corpse on the lips and tell him how much she loved him. Vomit flowed from her mouth as maggots fell from my brother's. Utter shock took over, and I'm not ashamed to admit that I peed myself right there in the middle of my bedroom. A new image came in. Both my brother and girlfriend, impaled simultaneously with a wooden spike rammed through her spine and into his chest. Hello. Reading the last message, I launched my phone at the wall and it exploded into pieces. I just sat there rocking, unsure of what to do. My mother found me, soiled, with my thumb in my mouth. I couldn't even get the words out of my mouth. I babbled to her about Miranda, about my brother's corpse, and she cried with me, rocked me to sleep in her arms as if I were a child once more. I awoke in my bed, the sun peering in through my windows. My mother was downstairs, talking to the police officers. She called me down, and the policemen began questioning me. They asked me about my girlfriend's disappearance and apparent murder, and I gave them the whole story about the images and how they disappeared every time. I told them about how the same thing had happened with my brother's disappearance, and that they could go check my phone in evidence right now. Of course, they asked to see the new phone, and they shot me a suspicious glance when I explained how I'd smashed it. Nevertheless, they bagged the phone up and left with the promise of having it repaired and examined. I spent the rest of the day locked in my room, secluded in darkness. The day drifted into night, and I slipped into sleep yet again. The next morning, I awoke to find my house empty and silent. I searched the house once more as panic set in, and my heart started to race. My mom was nowhere to be found. I called out for her and received no answer. What made my heart leap into my throat, however, was when I checked her office to find her purse, car keys, and cell phone. I felt my blood turn to ice as her screen lit up. One new message. Almost in a trance, I unlocked the device and opened the message. The message was clearer this time, more straightforward. The reason why I believe this man is hunting me. In the messages there was an image. An image of my brother, mother, and girlfriend, all deceased and mutilated. They sat there, arranged in a row with 4 seats. The last seat in the row had a card taped to it, like a director's chair. Last one, it read. Suddenly, a new message appeared. An image of my front door popped up on the screen as loud bangs rang out from downstairs. I ran and dove under my mother's bed, cell phone in hand. I listened as the door was kicked in and splintered wood hit the floorboard. Footsteps crept up the stairs and stopped at my mother's bedroom door. I heard the click of a camera before a notification appeared on the screen. One new message.